Well, TV fans, he has helped bring monsters from the upside down to life in brilliant ways in Netflix's Stranger Things. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby, and I am thrilled to be here with Paul Graff, visual effects supervisor. Thanks so much for talking with me, Paul.
You're welcome.
You actually worked on season 2. You've been with Stranger Things before.
Yes.
Do you feel like getting that under your belt and working with the Duffer Brothers for that season kind of gave you a leg up and prepared you in a different way for the 3rd season?
Yes, I do. I think we had to break some ground with camera department because there's not all visual effects people are always like super popular on set. Like a lot of times they're like technical nerd people, and they don't really necessarily speak the language, and they're very technical, and they run everybody over with complicated terms. So we had to break a little bit of ground and get some trust, and it was a big difference between season 2 and season 3 in terms of like how well received we were by the camera department, and we really became good friends. So that's really wonderful, and it made it a lot easier for us. At the same time, it's like every time you start a new season, you start a new thing. It's like the Duffers don't really like to repeat themselves, and they like to play. They're in it for the game and for the challenge. And so the only thing you really know when you get into a new season is that it's going to really not be what it was last time. It's going to be a whole new game, and it's going to be different, and it's going to be crazier than last time. So that's what we knew, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. I wanted to kind of get right into one of the biggest visual effects pieces in this, which was the Mind Flayer, the big demon they're fighting. What I was impressed by, because that's a monster we've seen in season 2 in one form, and now it's back. And even though we've already gotten used to that monster and we're terrified by it in season 2, it has this really dramatic, ominous, scary entrance in season 3 when you see it come through the darkness of the sawmill, or the steel mill rather. So how did you approach that deal? Since we've already seen that, how did you go about saying we're going to make this scary?
Well, I mean, I'm not the Duffer, so the Duffers have their own thought process, right? I'm just like, we said, the witness, and I'm a partner of conversations. But I felt like the Duffers wanted to play with something. The Mind Flayer in season 2 was kind of a particulate monster that was made out of like little floaty particles, was very ethereal and dark and shadowy, but it wasn't massive. It didn't have mass. It was more like a tornado. And so I think the Duffers were like, what if this thing goes heavy and stompy and wet and gory? And they basically, at the beginning of the season, they told us it's going to be Cronenberg's The Thing. It's going to be the theme of the season, and we're going to explore those kind of movies. And so what can we do to make the Mind Flayer turn himself into a monster, like a heavy, gory monster? And it's really not the same, like in a sense, it's the same entity, but it's not the same creature. It's in a way, it's sort of a hive mind anyways. It's like something that is building itself out of elements, and this year it just kind of changed, so to speak, the language and kind of elements. And so that was a whole new world for us to discover, and we had to kind of be up on our toes, because there was, of course, not a lot of prep time at all. Like they're always, they come in really hot. They go right from the last season. They go into the writings room, and everybody knows it's going to be a big surprise. And then you just kind of have to think on your feet as you go, because all of these scripts, they keep coming in as you go.
And I should say it does have that mass and is stumpy, because it's basically made out of body parts of all of its victims. I think it was a great effect, but the grossest effect of the show was when the flag kind of plopped down and dissolved into these crumples of body parts. What goes into making that feel realistic and so gross, as it were?
Well, I mean, like we analyzed this a lot. Like we analyzed specifically of different versions of Cronenberg's The Thing, and we felt like one of the things that really makes it work is the moisture, the wetness. And we knew like it has to be drippy and wet and dark and glossy and really contrasty. Like it's not about like seeing everything. I think it's a big mistake a lot of times with visual effects people, because you put so much work in everything and you want to see it. Sometimes it's really important to be bold enough to just like underexpose, to be like vague, even if you have the horsepower to eventually you have to put it all out in the open. So I think the secret was a mix of particle animation, keyframe animation, and then like a coating, a good soaking coating of like saliva, basically.
Yeah. And you mentioned the thing, and obviously nostalgia for the 80s is really baked into this series. Yeah. Do you find yourself often, I mean, that's one example with the thing, but do you find yourself often working off of old references like that as a jumping off point to kind of bake into the series?
I mean, everybody, like, I mean, that's basically always everybody. I have never done anything where we don't try to see what has there been done that looks like this. You know, everything is informed by what was done before, and you try to work with what's good, what has worked, and emulate that. But however, having said that, it's sort of like a self-propelled process. So I don't think it wasn't really copycat, or like we didn't try to make this exactly like this. It's basically you try to get the sort of like the language down, the vocabulary, so to speak, the visual vocabulary, and get inspired, and then you just play with your own thing, and then you just kind of work over it and figure out like what can we do better here, what's working well, what's not working so well. Like for example, with the spider monster, so we knew we knew that the mind flayer was going to be basically, it needed to remind us of the shape, like basically has the same shape as the mind flayer last year, but it's made out of something completely different. And then we knew it had these tentacles because these tentacles play a specific role downstream. They have a lot of jobs to do, like say in the cabin attack. And so the first thing we did is like we built this monster, and it looked really cool with these tentacles around on the still frame. When it started moving, it felt really like too complicated, like a Medusa. Like there was just too many moving parts. And in a way, it wasn't really reading the way we also wanted to have this dinosaur stomping thing that's running small, and like it just all of these tentacles floating around at the same time just didn't add up. So we figured, well, these tentacles have to be retractable, and then it's basically it's either the monster is moving. When the monster is moving, the tentacles are in, and then the monster stops, and then these tentacles come around. It's like a second layer of threat. But it's like it's a weird contrast between the two, and only the one works if the other one is still, and vice versa. So
yeah. There's lots of moments where those tentacles are attacking people. In the episode where he breaks into the cabin, also in the Battle of Starcourt. Is it useful for you as on the visual effects side to have some sort of physical stand-in for the actors to work off of, or is it better for you to have a blank canvas in a way?
Like one thing I've learned, and that's kind of what was like in when we killed Bob last season, like in second season. That one thing I've discovered, like one thing I took home basically to the bank was like, even if it's really messy and it's dirty and you have to do a lot of cleanup, it's like get something there. You want the intensity, and you want the struggle, and you want to see the interaction. So you need to have something always, you know. And we always had like basically, because usually when you shoot something, you don't just shoot this one shot. You shoot the whole scene, and then you start wide and you start moving in. And usually the first takes, you feel like there's kind of like a little bit of a dance of where you know like, it's probably not going to be this take, it's going to be the next take, or the next, right? Where you feel like we're closing in on the performance, right? And so in a way, for the visual effects team, that allows us to say, well, we have like sort of like the heavy duty stand-in that is most personifying what is going to be there. And then we have the balls, the silver balls, and like other like sort of a lighter version. And then we have like nothing at all. And so in a way, what you can do is you can start with some kind of representation and then just kind of pull it out as you go, because people kind of like get it after a while, you know. Or you have a standing all the time, or no, it's not at all, but it's basically you try to be super lean as best as you can and have like something there to work, because you also need to be ready at any time that this whole scene starts going in a different direction than it was originally conceived. Because in a way, it's like everybody's a little bit of a what is that called? Farmers and gatherers. You know, like you make a plan, you farm something, you put a seed in the ground, and you try to be as prepared as possible.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, you like become a hunter, and you try to see what is happening, what is it, what looks cool, and like what's working, and you need to be able to pivot and that's the real art of the directors, and it's the art of everybody else. And so in a way, as a visual effects team, you can't be the ones who that always pull the plug and say like, no, we've discussed this can only be this, right? So
I was wondering too, there's a really epic scene in the mall, the Battle of Starcourt, where you have this massive CGI creation, and the physical characters are doing battle with him, and they're using fireworks to attack him. So there's all these particle effects and lights, and the mall, the food court rather, has all this neon around it that's also reflected. What are the challenges that come from knowing you're going to also have to light this monster, this wet monster, in these ways to have it look realistic?
Well, there's kind of like basically there's a lot of things you can do and you can cheat, and there's some things that you really can't cheat very well, like lighting. It's like if you see a visual effect shot that doesn't work, that's sort of like somehow bumping you, chances are like over 50% it's lighting related, right? And that's the problem, is that you have to really match the lighting, and sometimes you need to change the lighting in post. And so this is like a real, basically it's a real big flag. So for us, it's like, because we know we can do all kinds of things, but lighting is going to be challenging. So you're trying to get the lighting right from the get-go and have a real good plan for it. Now, for Stranger Things, that means whenever shit hits the fan, the lights go all berserk, right? Everything goes crazy. And I tried to figure out if you basically shoot a lighting pass that records all of that lighting. But I tried to find out from the gaffers if they can make a repeatable cycle where they say like every 30 seconds the same thing repeats itself, and then you can record it and then you have it, right? Like it can take a take and say, okay, we'll do 30 seconds of just all the lights blinking in sequence. But that's not how it works. Like they're all random, the different subsets that all randomly cycle in different speeds, so it never really repeats itself. So then the plan B is like to get like a silver ball in there, and we put I made the silver ball helmet that's like somewhere back there on the shelf, which is kind of cool because it records the lighting and you can basically reconstruct the lighting from it. But so that's just generally speaking is a little bit of a thing, right, with Stranger Things. But then in this whole, I guess I take away from season 3 as a learning thing. It's not only that light is really good, it's really essential to match, but it's also light is a vehicle. Like it's really simple when you do the eye, like they make us think like your eye goes where the light is, right? And so you can direct, like it's a part of directing the scene. That's why DPs get paid a lot of money for knowing how to light scenes, right? And we are trying to get there too as visual effects people. So the strongest visual effects are when the visual effects are made out of light. And they're also hard because then you have nothing really there on set. How do you get that light on set? And that's what was basically one of the main challenges for us. We have basically 2 finales. We have the monster in the mall and the destruction, which is like a whole thing in itself. But then 11 is not going to save the day. The kids are saving the day with fireworks. So we have like all these fireworks going off in the mall, and we had to find like some stand-in for it in it. But at the same time, it's some of the most awesome shots we've ever done were with this fireworks. It's just beauty of the fireworks. And then at the same time, in the other location, it's the Russian machine. The Russian machine is also made out of light. And then it turns into this windmill effect with like the rays going. It all blows up, and it's like really cool. It's a really cool thing to do, and it's really strong and powerful, and it really gets the idea across. But it also means you really have to think before you can't just go to set and say, well, how are we going to light this today? You know, it needs to be. We need actually a visual effects light that is the key light of this whole scene. You know, for the Russian machine, it's the beam. And the gaffers worked really great with our special effects. They rigged this, they came up with this kind of mirror rig with like a big light source inside, but at the same time, it was a drum, but it also had mirrors outside, so you could like hit it really hard with the hot spotlight, and then it would just reflect all around, and they could adjust the speed. And it was really just like fun for everybody. I mean, the least fun thing about visual effects is that it happens so much in your head and like on set, like it's a green screen. It's not very sexy, you know. So it's really nice when you have like this rig and like the DP has something to look at, you know, and like it kind of plays a good role. So that's something for me that I'm particularly happy about and proud of, that we kind of like jerry-rigged like all of these sort of like light effects that then really kind of take over and paint the scene.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm curious that you brought up like green screen work, and I always wonder, what is the conversation, what's the process like of figuring out what has to be visual effects and what has to be like production design or another department, what should be practical? Because it all kind of ends up seamlessly blending together.
Well, it's one of those conversations that's largely based in the one topic that's never discussed in all of these, like, I was there, I did it, we had a great time, we had all of these creative discussions. The one topic that's kind of like overlooked, that is like massive, is money, right? When you're shooting a movie, whose budget, like how the hell? I mean, basically everybody's going there. Like Stranger Things is basically like a party of people that go completely boldly beyond what is possible for every department, right? From the duffers, from the writing, to the set, I mean, what the art department built this year is just like mind blowing. I told them, you should really kind of give me a statistic of how many cubic feet of set have you built in season 3 versus season 2, you know, because it's like football stadiums worth of set. And those guys were like fried. So basically, in a way, it's a little bit, yeah, it's like you're also like these little crews of sister warriors, and everybody has their superpower, and it's like, okay, you can take, if you can take care of this, then we can take care of this, right? So basically the dividing line, to answer your question, was like anything that's complicated and that's moving, you know, is us. And anything that's sort of stationary, that has multiple use, like it's sort of like if something is there all the time, it has multiple use, we're looking at it all the time, then it should be art department, right? And if it's something that can be done practical, whereas anything that special effects can do, basically the conversation goes like this. Okay, what can you guys do? Oh, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. Special effects, we can do this. Okay, you do whatever you can, everybody does whatever they can, and whenever they can't do it at all, like when it's silence, then that is, okay, that's visual effects. We're gonna do this no matter what it is. And it's like literally you're going into this thing and you don't know what it's gonna be. What are the duffers gonna hit me with this time? And you just know you're gonna have to deliver whatever it is that they make up in their mind. So that's kind of fun and crazy and also a little bit stressful. But yeah, that's the game.
Well, it's a game that's worked out very well for you. You were nominated last year at the Emmys for visual effects, and you've actually won 4 times. What does it feel like to win for actually 4 different projects? You weren't just locked in as one winner, but what does it like to be recognized for a wide array of things?
I love it. I'm very happy. But it's getting like everybody's getting better all the time. You know, everybody's getting better all the time. The level is going up all the time, and I'm kind of happy to be in it, and I'm proud for the few things that I've achieved. I'm very impressed, blown away with what everybody else is doing, and I love this. I really what I do think is really special about Stranger Things, that it's really kind of a little bit ad hoc. You know, it's not you don't have. It's just not conceivable. Other than now, maybe after Corona, it might change. But because they finally had time to write. But it's like basically Stranger Things is like a mill, and it's like running full steam, and everybody's giving it what they have. And you get these scripts, and the scripts you don't have when you get started. You don't have anything about the last chapters. You just know it's going to be crazy, right? And then they keep coming in. Every time they come in, it's like things have changed, and they're like better. Like every time they're like really better. It's like there's so much passion, you know. There's so much passion in the writing, in the directing, and in everything, that it's really kind of fun to be in this game. But I felt like at points I said I'm going to start a new company, call it Improv Visual Effects, because it is so it's so like, yeah, give me 3 words. A Hindenburg. Okay, we have a Hindenburg. We have a dinosaur. Okay, we're shooting it tomorrow. So what are we going to do? You know, it's a little bit like it's an exaggeration, but it's like a little bit what it felt like at times. So
yeah, well, improv special effects you pull off very well, if that's what it feels like. So
and it's fun.
Yeah, well, it certainly resonates. So thank you so much for talking with me, Paul, and everyone who's watching at home. Make sure you subscribe to Gold Derby and keep up to date with us through Emmy season. And thank you so much again for talking with me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I had a blast.